Hello, Brother Mazi. Could you give us some background information about yourself before we start?
Sure. Well, thanks for the invitation.
Of course.
Well, um, I'll go through my academic and then my industrial experience. I started from a community college in Los Angeles, Pierce College in Woodland Hills in Los Angeles, back in 1999. And I was there for about 2 years, and I did transfer to Caltech from Pierce College in 2001, and I did finish my bachelor in electrical engineering 2004. And at the time, I got an admission from Harvard University, um, and I went to Harvard for a PhD, all in electrical engineering. I spent 2 years to do my PhD, and I did not really like it. To be honest with you, I kind of really didn't like it, to put it mildly. So the reason was I kind of felt lost. Like I didn't see the significance of doing research when I was quite blind because I was right after bachelor and didn't know what the real life problems are to solve, and I was thrown into doing research on things that I just didn't have any insight into. So I did get my master's though. I was in a PhD program. I got my master's, and I thought I just need to get a leave of absence to get some real life industry experience out there and come back and finish my PhD with more experience. So I went to the dean. I said I need to leave and I need to get a job and see what's out there and come back. And he was very nice to me. He said, you're a good student. We'll let you go for 1 year. So I left for 1 year. I got a job in Silicon Valley. It was a great job. One of the professors recommended me, and I got an interview. I had a job offer. It was very nice. It was everything I wanted. At the time, like six-figure salary. It was nice. So after a year, I went back to the dean. I asked for one more year. I wanted to extend my leave of absence, and I was awarded uh, for for staying a bit longer. And but then after 2 years, I just didn't want to go back. I thought I'm learning a lot more doing real work in industry. By then, I was almost leading a project. I was maybe the youngest engineer leading a project at Qualcomm at the time, and it felt really good. I was very happy. I was learning more. So I ended up never going back to school, finish my PhD at Harvard, but I did uh, enroll at Stanford a year later in 2009. I started my PhD there, but that was more like a part time on the side. I kept my job, and I started doing my PhD essentially on the side. Is that something I really recommend to others? Maybe not. It's a hard thing to do. Full time work and like grad school don't really work well together. But there are sacrifices to be made, and I decided that I want to make those sacrifices and do both together because I needed, I wanted to have the income, and I wanted to also get my PhD. By then, I had a pretty good idea what I want to do my research on. I didn't really need, a supervision, or I didn't need an advisor to tell me what to do. I knew what to do, and I just needed someone to take me. And I found the greatest advisor I could find at the Stanford, uh, Professor Ada Poon, and we worked really well together. And I did finish my PhD in 2014. So that's the story of my academic and Yeah, so with industry, yeah, I did start at Qualcomm as my first job, and I stayed there for a long time. I was a very um, loyal employee, I guess. I enjoyed it. It was one of the greatest companies to work with and work for, um, and I learned a lot. So that was what I did for like nearly 16 years and a few months. So yeah, after that, I joined a fairly new startup, which is Zadar Labs, the one that I'm working at right now. I kind of switched gears from like hardcore deep tech e- engineering, which I was doing at Qualcomm. I was an RFIC and analog design engineer. What we did was building uh, chips that goes into your mobile phone or laptop or PC or anything that contains connectivity radios like Bluetooth, Wi-Fi, uh, NFC, GPS, anything that is like wireless communication. I did design those transceivers on silicon. It was it was it was lovely. I really liked it. I still like it. I'm still somewhat involved in it, but in a different way. So at Zadar, I did start as the business development lead. I'm currently the chief business officer at Zadar Labs, and it is a refreshing change. Being in technical for so long and then switching gears to business is a difficult decision, but I'm happy I made that decision.
Very nice. So there's a lot to unpack there, obviously. But I guess first thing I'll ask is what skills would you say from your sort of electrical engineering job at Qualcast would you say transferred towards your role as being more on the business side at your startup or at the startup that you moved to?
Um, so we are a deep tech startup, and doing business development for a deep tech startup requires some level of understanding of technology and uh, the jargon that engineers and scientists use. Because for the most part, um, we're dealing with a lot of engineers in other businesses. I'm not dealing with the sales guys or the marketing guys of those uh, companies that we're working with. Often we work with their technical teams. So, uh, yes, we need to understand the technical. We need to understand the technology. We have to be able to explain it well. So, um, yeah, someone without a technical background would probably struggle to do the job, especially for the young startup. When companies are a bit bigger and there are more uh, defined roles and the products are more defined, yes, non-technical people can come in and start doing a lot of good, interesting work. But for a new startup with few people in the beginning, it's much harder. The skills are, I would say, transferable. Like I used to lead engineering teams, so the same leadership skills is applicable. Like being able to keep track of tasks, be able to be disciplined uh, in how to finish a product, having familiarity with the difficulties of doing some actual work. So when the team says, "Oh, we're gonna finish this product in 8 months," I'm like, "Well, it's probably not going to be 8 months. It's going to be maybe 12 months or 16 months because you guys are underestimating it." Let's say. So that insight is very useful. Like because I've been there. I've done that. Um, so it really helps. Um, and there's certain new skills that one has to learn. Uh, Back in my time at Qualcomm, um, or if you're just purely technical person, you're just mainly dealing with other scientists or engineers. It's a it's a totally different interaction. As a business development um person, you're dealing with a wide variety of people. Some very technical, some very non-technical. There's a lot of psychology involved. There's a lot of, I would say, soft skills involved. So one has to work on those soft skills in addition to more hard skills. Yeah.
Yeah, that makes sense. That's very interesting. I'd say, especially the leadership skills. I think no matter your position, leadership skills are always very important. Now, I also want to ask specifically, what do you do as the chief business officer at Zadar?
Um, well, in the beginning, 3 years ago, it was really like a one-man show. We did everything. Um, we meet with customers that want our technology, but a lot of times is not very well defined. Like they just know that they want something, uh, so we have to meet them usually online. We learn about their application. We offer what we could do for them. And there's often a lot of back and forth before a customer decides that they want to use our technology. And it's a very new technology, and most customers don't know about it. So there's a lot of you know information that you have to make available to the customer, make sure they understand the capabilities and maybe the limitations of the technology, because you can't oversell also because you have to be accurate. So yeah, meeting with customers, going through their needs, trying to work with them, trying to do usually a proof of concept first, and then if it's successful, then you go to more volume production and then selling in a higher volume. And we are in a very segmented market, so we have different verticals and we have different applications. There are many different applications. So um, we have met a lot of people from a lot of businesses with a lot of applications. Um, Basically, you know, we do business development, we do marketing, we do sales. Um, all of that is kind of tasks that roll into my position. Now, I have people that work with me, so I'm not the only one doing it. But it used to be that I was the only one doing it. Like all these tasks all rolled into essentially my position. It is much better now than it was like 3 years ago, because our business has grown significantly, and we have significantly more number of customers. So it does make sense to expand. But yeah, it's hard to define exactly what business development does, but it, it is in charge of developing business for the company. Like anything that brings money to the company is the business development for the company.
So, would you say that people who work in business development can expect to do similar things to what you have been doing, especially recently, since you've been able to focus more on business?
Yeah, definitely. So, and you could be very innovative, because sometimes I just think about what businesses or what applications would want to have our technology, and then uh, sometimes you have to outreach. Like there is a customer out there that doesn't even know about what we offer as a product. In this case, we do offer radar sensors, or more accurately, 4D imaging radars in the millimeter wave frequency. They have no idea that this sensor would really help them, and this is something that they actually need. So there's a lot of outreach that we do, uh, but I guess we weren't the most successful company in advertisement and stuff because again the DNA of our company was a lot of deep tech scientists and engineers getting together and start doing something really meaningful. It wasn't too much of marketing or sales. Like even as the business chief business officer, I come from a very deep technical background. Um, so um, most of our customers are actually, you know, the businesses that have found us essentially themselves, and they have reached out to us, and that's pretty amazing. I would say we even well, we have not yet started a real outreach campaign, and it's pretty interesting because I believe once we do, I think the prospects are going to be much nicer. But we're still pretty busy with the inbound interest that we get, even without having any real advertisement or outreach, which we really need to fix. We need to start doing more on the business side. Uh, but but yeah, fresh thinking is really helpful in business development. Thinking out of the box, and outreaching to certain customers that might not even know about the importance of the product.
Yeah, that's very interesting. I'd also say that the fact that you guys haven't done that much marketing or sales, but you guys have still gotten so many customers, I think that just speaks to how useful that how useful your product is really. So I think that's
Yeah,
honestly a good
yeah,
thing in a sense
truly,
as well.
yeah.
So yeah, amazing stuff you're doing as Adar. Now I kind of want to go backwards because I don't think we've ever had anyone on the podcast who's gotten a PhD and has also gone through such a roller coaster with their a process of getting a PhD as well. So let's talk a bit about that. What's your perspective on PhDs after everything you've gone through?
Yeah. I mean, going through it now, looking back, I'm happy I did it because I really used my PhD. I put it in good use. Um, um, well, my interest was to be able to do research, independent research, good research, and even at some point go to academia. I do have an interest in teaching. I always had a big interest in doing research, and it is nearly impossible to do either of them in this competitive market without a PhD. So if folks have an interest in teaching in higher education like universities or want to do real research either in academia or industry, uh, getting a PhD is definitely a must. I would say almost a must. I mean, it doesn't mean like if you don't do research. I mean, if you don't do a PhD, you can't do research. No, I'm not saying that. But to be at the edge of it, if you really want to be a researcher, you just need to get a PhD in this competitive market to be able to go to the best institutions or companies. And there are always exceptions, obviously. But if one wants to work in industry, um, doesn't want to go to academia, um, getting a PhD is not necessarily the best thing because you invest 4 to 5 or 6 years of your life and the best years of your life getting a PhD. Um, you really have to think deep. Do you need that? Um, and I guess in a lot of cases, the answer is probably no. You don't need that. You could be equally successful or even more successful without a PhD. If you put yourself out in the job market and you can land a job, a good job with a master's or a bachelor, then you don't really need a PhD. But yeah, one might argue that maybe getting a master's might be a pretty good middle of the way, optimum point. You know, you you learn more and you give yourself more time to really identify what you want to do and what you like to do. but it's still not a PhD. So, uh, but but you could land a job, maybe even land a job even easier because with a PhD you are at the risk of being somewhat overqualified for quite many jobs these days. So that's also something you want to consider.
Yeah, also speaking from what I've heard online as well, I know that PhDs, not only do you need to dedicate a lot of time, but also if you keep doing research after your PhD, a lot of professors or people who do research, they don't get paid a lot as well. So from what I understand, generally speaking, you have to be really passionate about what you're getting your PhD in and what you're doing research in because there's not even that much monetary value in what you do.
Um, it is true if you're doing research for like purely research, institutions or universities. But if you're doing like bleeding edge research in certain big tech companies, um, still research, but your employer is, you know, a company. Um, those people could get paid very high, very high salaries. Let's say type of open AI type of guys that started, AI, and what they did was very researchy. It wasn't like a product to sell next year. Um, but they were paid very handsomely, and it depends. And depends on on the major. Certain fields just don't pay as much. Certain other fields pay more. Um, if you do research in chemical engineering or mechanical engineering, historically, people with PhD in these fields don't make as much as people in electrical engineering or computer science. Um, and if you get PhD in non-engineering disciplines, um, you could uh, you could make no money. Like if you get a PhD in like most of humanities, like literature or history or sociology, you know you probably land a teaching job perhaps somewhere, uh, and you know you're probably not going to get paid more than a person with a master's, and it might not justify the number of years you spend in school trying to get a PhD and maybe the loan you got to get it and stuff like that. So it's not for everyone. That's what I put it. Um, and in the age of AI and availability of resources, if someone is really hungry for learning, there's a lot to learn without going to school. So if learning is the issue, learning is now almost free. Learning anything is almost free.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And speaking about how learning is free, I wanted to ask you about college in general. And do you think that's still worth it to go to college for people my age who are about to go to college in a few years? And also about your own experience. Did you learn most of the information that you apply to your job or specifically at Qualcast?
Yeah.
But would you say that you learned most of that information in college or outside of college in activities that you did outside of your classes?
Right. Yeah, I would definitely encourage people to go to college. Um I don't know about 10 years from now, but in today's economy and today's society, um, college does not serve only to teach you something. In fact, I'm very hesitant if learning from the classroom is a thing. I personally learned a lot less inside the classroom. I, you know, when I was at Caltech, I really stopped going to classes starting my junior and senior year. I went to very few classes. I skipped all of my classes and I still got A's. I just didn't see the need to attend the lecture because, most professors just say the same thing as, you know, is available on the lecture notes. So I didn't see utility in it. And but the network you make, the friends you make, that's the most useful, and the ability to be social, and um, sometimes that gives you the buffer and the time to kind of find yourself and your space in the world, and to know what you want to do, what you like to do. So, um, and taking the right classes, yeah, you can learn a lot also. I'm saying that learning that does not correlate to going to college, but you will definitely learn in college. Uh, but the degree is important. Like I would definitely think, going to college is a right choice for 90 something percent of people, if not more. So I wouldn't say at least get your bachelor. That's something you would probably benefit from a lot for the rest of the life.
So for your current job at, or sorry, not your current job, but your old job at Qualcomm. Also, I called it Qualcast before. That's because I combined the name of your company and the recording software we're using right now. So I'm sorry about that.
No.
But would you say that the information that and the knowledge that you used at that job, would you still say that you had some of that knowledge did come from your college classes? I'm assuming that there's also a lot of like math involved in your job. So would you say that some of the math maybe from your college courses did help?
Yeah, um, they did help. I mean, I'll tell you this. I could have learned all of the math, all of the physics that I learned without going to any class in college. So, but I learned it in college, but I could have learned the whole thing without spending a minute inside the classroom. What actually helps with the college is the fact that you have to do homework, you're graded, so it's a push, it's an external push. Because most people lack the discipline to learn things on their own. But if you don't lack the discipline to learn things on your own, you can learn any amount of math on your own, and the resources are available. You do not have to go to college. Okay, you can learn any topic in engineering on your own. Uh, you don't have to attend a class. Of course, if you do attend the class, and if there's a good professor teaching it, and there's homework, there's class projects, it really helps. But again, if someone is motivated on their own, they could do it. There are exceptions, like if you want to do nanotechnology and you have to go to the fab and build something because you need certain, $1 million equipments. You can't do it at home, obviously. If something requires equipments, well, you do need to go to the lab. But um, if you don't need expensive lab or equipments, you could learn on your own. But going to school helps, yeah. I mean, I learned because I went to, to school and I took classes. But none of the stuff I learned required attending a class. Certain engineering courses, yes, it did, because I could not, at least at that time, I could not have access to certain software outside the school. Like, it wasn't so easy. Maybe it wasn't so easy to have access to, let's say, a circuit design software that I use at the school, and it wasn't maybe easy to learn on my own at the time, because at the time there weren't too many online courses available. But today is somewhat different. But it really expedites the learning and it makes it easier. That's 100% the case. But it comes at a cost. You have to pay for it, and you have to go physically. So it's not free, but it is worth it, perhaps.
Yeah, that definitely makes sense. I'd say that a lot of my knowledge in both math and also AI, a lot of it comes from online courses that I did on Coursera and Udemy. So I'd say that that's definitely good advice. I think that there's a lot of knowledge online, both for free and that you have to pay for, but also it definitely is costs a lot less than what you'd spend at college. But I definitely say there's a lot of information out there that you can get. So especially for the viewers watching this, I think taking advantage of that information is vital.
Yeah.
So I also want to go very back. I want to sort of know what was your inspiration to get into electrical engineering and computer science? What was their first moment where you really got into it, or was it just sort of over time you got interested?
Um, I guess, yeah, I always wanted to be an engineer. As long as I remember, I guess I had no aspirations to become a police officer or a pilot. It wasn't for me. I always wanted to build something. I did not want to become a doctor. Yeah, I guess I wanted to become an engineer from early childhood. I used to play Lego, and I used to be able to build good things with it, and I always wanted to build nicer things and be able to do more. Um, but I wasn't anything specific. I was just like the average kid with no, I would say, great talent. I would say, I was just, pretty average. I was a good student. I probably ranked, you know, top two or three in the class uh, throughout my school years. But I don't consider myself uh, anything beyond like ordinary, and I didn't do anything extraordinary when I was in school. So I just got good grades. I didn't do anything extraordinary. So
I mean, yeah, from what I've heard, I think you're pretty extraordinary. I can say that I'm pretty average, but you seem like you've done a lot of good things. I can definitely say that. But one thing is that this is an AI podcast, and I've realized that we haven't really talked about AI over the past 30 minutes. So let's start talking about that. How have you used AI, especially since it's gone popular since around 2022, 2023? What are your insights on AI, and just what do you think about AI as a whole?
yeah, AI is real. AI is not hype, um, and AI is going to make the world really different in 5 years from how we see it today. Um, I use AI very heavily, um, and it's just a tool that uh, everyone has to be able to use. Our company uses AI very heavily, anywhere from uh, using AI to do perception using point cloud data from radar to using AI to write code. We used to, um, we used to hire quite a few people to write certain code for us. And these days, the same number of people write a lot more code. These days, you just have to tell what you want to do, and then the AI will write a very usually good code for you. But of course, you have to check it and make sure that it's not bogus and there aren't like mistakes in it. And it's getting much better every day, right? But what AI is doing for us is like if we didn't have AI today, maybe we would need twice as many people to do the same job. But with AI, we're doing the work that used to be done by twice as many people with our number of people. And I think moving forward, as the AI tools become more powerful, um, what's going to be happening is that there will be a lot more done by fewer people. I don't think we will need fewer engineers. I think what's going to happen is um, we're going to see an expansion of the amount of work done in the world. Of course, if our world is not going to end by some World War III or some, nuclear explosions here and there. If the world is continuing as we know it today, uh, there will be a lot more done using the same number of engineers that we have today. So, um, yeah, the the arrival of AI doesn't mean that you know many engineers are going to lose their job. That might be the case for a short period, but then there will be new type of engineers that will be needed, or new people with some engineering skills that now have to be able to use these AI tools and do a lot more with it. So um, I think AI is an agent of change, and is an agent of massive expansion of activities. Um, I think it's something to be welcomed, not feared, and it's real.
So would you say that engineers nowadays should embrace AI and use AI tools to make their work better instead of just fearing it?
Yeah, absolutely. AI is like, when GPS came, some people were resistant to use GPS, and they still wanted to navigate using their memory or a paper map. But at some point, hey, if you want to get to an address, you just put it on your, put the address in the GPS and use the GPS and go. Um, you'd be a fool not to use AI. It's a tool. You have to be able to use it, and you have to use it. Uh, so yeah, there's no doubt that you have to use AI. It's a search engine. You have to use search engine, to search things online. You can't go to the library anymore and look inside the books. That that age has gone. It's old now. Yeah, so one shouldn't resist against AI. Has to learn it, and use it, and take it as a fact of life.
Yeah, I definitely agree. And I think one thing is that many people sort of think that AI started with ChatGPT, but AI has been everywhere for a long time now. I mean, recommender systems on things like Amazon, on YouTube, on Spotify, they all use AI. Many of the services that we've used for years, even before OpenAI started and ChatGPT started getting really big a few years ago, they all use AI as well. So it's not like it just appeared out of nowhere. So yeah, I definitely agree that I think that just fearing AI and instead of simulating is I don't think it's a good idea, especially in this landscape.
Yeah.
But I also wanted to ask, what sort of work have you done with like AI more like technically? So I don't know if you have, but if you have, maybe ever had to develop an AI algorithm, like a computer vision algorithm or an NLP algorithm, could you tell us about it?
Yeah. So in my current job, I I mostly use AI for like deep, research or deep search, or preparing documents, things like that. I don't do coding right now in my current job. There are other people in the company that do it. And in my previous job, uh, well, that was like more than 3 years ago. At the time, um, in in our industry, most people did not use AI because AI tools weren't really available at the time for that specific industry. But it's changing. So I do personally use AI mostly for non-technical stuff, which still is very time consuming if I weren't going to use AI. But I've looked at AI. If I wanted to write a certain code for a certain task, I've tried it and it works really nice. Uh, but it's not my job today to use AI in a technical sense. We have others that do it, so I wouldn't be able to comment on that. But um, but we do use AI heavily right now, mostly to assist our software engineers to write code that would otherwise be written by a person and take much longer to write.
Yeah, that makes sense. So we're about to get to 45 minutes, so I want to end soon. But I have one more question, and that is how would you, or what advice would you give to high school students like me who want to get into a field like AI or electrical engineering? What would you say that we should do now to prepare ourselves for our future, whether we want to build a business or get a job or something else?
My biggest advice is fundamental knowledge is crucial because the tools come and go, right? Uh, but fundamental knowledge in like fundamental mathematical understanding, fundamental understanding of, let's say, statistics or physics. These are the things you cannot replace with AI. Because if you're just a user, uh, then you haven't built a meaningful barrier to entry with respect to the competition and others. So my advice is try to learn fundamentals really well. Like, the tools come and go. Uh, you know, there were tools that people used 20 years ago that nobody even know today. They've been replaced by other tools. But the fundamental understanding is crucial. So learn your math well, learn your fundamental science as well. Um, and eventually that's what's going to help you with respect to others in competition, in competition to others. If you have fundamental skills, because fundamental skills take time to develop. Right? It takes time to develop a mathematical understanding. It takes time to develop, an algorithmic understanding. Even if you want to do coding, like try to learn algorithm and like, okay, the time complexity of a certain algorithm versus another algorithm. The topics of computer science. These are things that never get old. Uh, Using AI is good. Everybody's gonna use AI. So, but with some insight.
Mhm. Yeah, I definitely agree. I think there's also this notion going around that anyone can do anything with AI, but I think that you need to make sure that at the very least you know the bare minimum, the fundamentals in these fields such as computer science, or if you're going to in a more physics applied field, know more about physics, and especially if you're going to really any engineering field, then you're going to need to know the math no matter what. So I definitely agree that the fundamentals are very important.
You know.
So I think we'll end the podcast here. Do you have any last remarks?
No, I wish uh, the best for your viewers. And uh, my last remark is that, as young people, youth, it's never late. It's never late to start. If you wasted your time when you were in high school, or now you're like, okay, I'm like 25 years old, I've wasted all of my time, I haven't even gone to college. Great, start at 25 years old, start, go to college. It's never late. Hey, if you're 30 years old, great, start at 30 years old. It's never late. It's never late to start. It's, uh, you know, have that mindset. And you're never done. It's not like, finished now, I'm done. No, you're never done, and it's never late to start. So that's my last remarks.
Yeah, I think that's some amazing advice. I think that no matter what, you should always remember that you always have the chance to do things right if you think that you did them wrong before. So I think it's just that mindset that even when you fall down or even if you were always down, you can always get up.
Yep, exactly.
All right, so I'll end the podcast here. Thank you so much for coming as a guest.
So
Maybe I'll invite you again next time or some other time.
it was a
But
pleasure.
besides that, yeah, thank you.
Yep.
Besides that, I hope to see you soon.
All right. Take care.
Take care.